And it's evident in our society because our society is so chaotic. If our feminine energy was more dominant, we wouldn't have chaos. We'd have unity. There wouldn't be segregation. There wouldn't be separation. We'd be more in union. We wouldn't have war. We'd have love. We wouldn't go to war over an imaginary line, because of some sort of egocentric, it's mine, not yours sort of mentality. And this has got to do with energy more fundamentally than it does with people. And this is where people need to step back and really observe what kind of reality this is, because on the surface, it's displayed as these conscious agents. You, me, and everyone else can be represented as a conscious agent, but collectively, it's a source of energy. And if you're looking at it from a macro sort of perspective, there is always chaos in this world. And that chaotic energy, even though you may not have any control over it, it also translates into your everyday life because you hear it on the news, you see it on social media, people are talking about it. So that there's a ripple effect or a residue that it creates, and there's an anxiety that it breeds into every single sort of person. And it's also evident in Western cultures that we're always chasing things that we can never have. We're chasing our dreams. We're chasing this perfect look. We're chasing the perfect relationship. We're always chasing something outside of us that will promise fulfillment. And that keeps us disconnected from fulfilling ourselves within our own sort of source or own sort of truth. And our whole lives are conditioned this way, thinking that unless we get this level of success, we won't be satisfied. And this is what is so indoctrined within your mind. It's so indoctrined within your being that, we can have these conscious conversations, but what will happen is, hey, Lashera, as soon as you go back into your everyday life and the distractions not there, there's this anxiety. I feel it. I've got it now. There's this anxiety that brews within us. Some people, it's camouflaged very well. Other people, maybe it's not so dominant, but if you're like me, and there's a lot of people that are within this, within this percentage, there's this inner anxiety of not making it. We fear not making it. I fear that I'm not going to make it. And that is nonsensical. It's not me that I fear. There's a program within me that fears not making it. So then your question is, what does making it mean? I don't fucking know anymore, because I used to think making it was success. I used to think, I used to have programs that gave me a vision or a concept that making it was success. It was to have financial freedom, was to have this and that. But now to me, when I question that program, that's not success anymore. Success isn't being a hamster on a wheel, always wanting more and achieving this level of success, then wanting more success and wanting more success and one more success. That's never ending. So now there's this confliction between the old conditioning, which really wants success, and this anxiety that's bred within me to go out and try and achieve success, and the new program that's saying, what is success? You've only got a certain amount of time here, and for someone that's on their last breath, success is to be given another year. Success is to be given another week, another 10 years to come back and have all this freedom of time. So perception matters. Perception is very, very important. And unless you really understand, I don't think people understand how powerful perception is. That's what I truly, truly, truly feel. I feel that there's a misposition of your focus, and you are focusing on things that you are conditioned to believe that will bring you happiness, and you are conditioned to focus on things that you are expected to focus on. And sometimes we have to because we've got responsibilities, but I'm talking about when you're here alone with yourself, the relationship with yourself, not when you're being a dad, mum, brother, sister, member of society, but when you're by yourself, where is your focus? And most of the time, our focus is within, our focus is taken. Let me rephrase that. Our focus is taken through a conditional, habitual level of thinking that is a direct projection of the way we've been feeling. And we've been feeling a certain way because we programmed this mental rehearsal for so long in trying to make it, that now there's this fear of not making it. There's this fear of missing out. There's this fear of not being good enough. There's this fear of abandonment. There's this fear. And I don't know what fear you have, but there's always some sort of residue of fear, whether it comes from trauma, whether it comes from, just working really hard and always trying to catch up with your bills, financial stress, whether it comes from not being good enough because you look at yourself in the mirror and you compare yourself to other people and you feel like you're not beautiful, whether it comes from, I don't know, but there's a fear that it doesn't matter where it comes from. The emotional architecture that is the common ground for all of us is that we're living in a fear. And this is what the system does. The system wants you to live in fear because when you're in fear, you can be controlled. You can be controlled and you're suppressed. Your powers are suppressed because if you truly figured out what this game of life was, you wouldn't be in fear. And if everyone did that on a collective, it would be a direct threat to the systems of power. It would be a direct threat to the structures of power. So it is in their best interest to make you believe that you are nothing. You're insignificant. Your life doesn't matter. Your life will never ever amount to anything. And you're just like this person going through it. And you look at all these celebrities and you look at all these influencers and all these famous people and you feel inadequate because you're like, hey, I'm not going to amount to that. And that is the biggest lie that you can identify with. And I say identify because you are not that program. You are not that lie. You are the result of the identification of that experience. Your power is what you identify with. That's your power. You're weak when you lose focus. When you lose focus, you're weak because there's a construct called the ego, which is the conditioning of all your memories and all the information that you processed that creates this predeterministic program that works on algorithms, which is no different from ChatGPT in a way, because it's everything that you program, and now it has a mind of its own. It's kind of playing out on its own when you're not aware of it. Because once you're aware of it, you can take your attention that's feeding the program and then start to focus it through your, consciousness to kind of create a new level of mind that best represents what you want to create. But when you're not in creation, you're in survival. And when you're in survival, it is a direct result of what I've just explained. And what that does is it activates a physiological response called the flight or fight response. So now, not only do you have the thoughts that are kind of dominating you, you have this survival sort of response that's giving you this experience of fear. And it's trying to protect you in a world that's full of threat. But now there's no lions, there's no pack of wolves, there's not immediate threat. The biggest threat is your internal threat. It's your nervous, your biggest threat is your thoughts. Your biggest, what's up, Stardust? Your biggest threat is your nervous system. Your biggest threat is the way you feel. Your biggest threat is your own sort of projection of, I'm not going to make it. Your biggest threat is, oh my God, I'm not heard. Oh my God, I'm not good enough. Your biggest threat is what you're kind of focusing on without any awareness. And then that is just replaying the way it's meant to replay at default, because it just is your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is a recording device of everything that you program, and then it plays it back to you through feedback loops. So these feedback loops are continuously being played back because that's what you program. But if you were unaware and you are rehearsing some worst case scenario, you're rehearsing abuse or victimization, or you're rehearsing all these things that you don't have, and you're rehearsing always kind of, being at the, I guess, at the shorter end of whatever outcome you've gone through, meaning that, there's always some sort of suffering that you've experienced, and you're rehearsing the thought processes, you're rehearsing the feelings, but not because you're doing it consciously, you're doing it because that's what you're doing, because you're not conscious. And that over time starts to hardwire these feedback loops, and now that perpetuates this vicious cycle of thinking and feeling, which then is projected onto your reality. And that's evident because when you show up to reality, to your life, that display, as soon as you wake up in the morning, that little bit of energy and how you're going to handle your day and how you go out to interact is a direct projection of your subconscious, right? So if you want to know, how you've programmed yourself, how are you going to get up tomorrow morning? How are you feeling now? This is a direct projection of what you've been programming, right? Stardust says, love yourself and that you are perfect, just the way we expect ourselves, just the way we are accept ourselves. Absolutely. Your biggest relationship is with yourself. A lot of people, it's hard for them to love themselves because they don't like the person that they're staring at in the mirror. So that interaction, that portal becomes a experience of disconnection, an experience of inauthenticity, and an experience of I'm not good enough, and when that happens, then that also then perpetuates this vicious cycle. So coming back into solutions, the solution is first we have to have the model. I was speaking to someone the other day and we were in the sauna and we were talking about breath work, meditation, as you do. And he was saying, look, I work, he goes, as soon as I go to work, I put on my corporate hat and man, I'm just so stressed. I'm just so stressed at work. And he goes, I'm 55 now. And he goes, it's almost like there's just this stress that I can't stop. And I've re-questioned my whole reality and why am I even doing this? And he goes, I'm okay because I've got a friend, she's got, these health issues because she's going through a divorce, single mother, 2 kids, full custody, and she's got all this responsibility at work. And now she's thinking about, pretty much leaving work and trying to focus on her health because her health is really deteriorating. So I said to him, well, the corporate world is very stressful because there's a chain of command, there's a hierarchy, and there's always someone at the top delegating their stress onto someone down the bottom. And that's why it pays to be the boss, because you're paying other people to take the stress. With that comes a lot of stress, right? Also, that's going to really hijack the nervous system. And when the nervous system is hijacked, then that is going to be really hard to reprogram. And this is what people don't understand. Before you are you, which is just a paradigm, when you show up to any interaction, you have to understand that there's a biochemical, hormonal, genetic spacesuit that is governing your moods, that is governing your behaviors. So before you can even be your best self, you've got hormones, chemicals, programs that are all playing out within this genetic spacesuit that you're trying to kind of process and then show up as the best version of yourself. And sometimes we can do that initially. Sometimes we can do that. And it happens in relationships. When you meet someone, they put on the best facade and it's like, oh my God, you're going to meet this guy, you're going to meet this girl, she's the best. And he's like, oh my God, my prince in shining armor. And then you move in with him and it's like, who the fuck is that? Who are you? And, the facade dissolves and all their trauma comes out. The ability to manage their emotions surfaces. The blaming starts. Oh, it's your fault I feel like this. Because they haven't processed none of their pain or their hurt. And now they associate that with an argument because you've triggered that. And it's your fault. And it's your fault. And it's your fault. And we blame. But again, people can only hold that facade for so long. A leopard can only hide its spots for so long. The truth is always going to come out, especially when you move in with someone. People can't put on that facade 24/7, 7 days a week. It's fucking impossible. And the people that sit there and dance around in circles saying love and light, that's just, to me, nonsensical because that isn't authentic. That's just too extreme. So, you're a biochemical hormonal machine. Your endocrine system is the backbone of good health, your endocrine system. Your endocrine system is made out of your hypothalamus, pituitary, your thyroids, your spleen, your heart, your adrenals, your pancreas, your gut, your ovaries for a woman, your testes for a man. There are these hormonal centers that work in conjunction with your respiratory. How are you breathing? And we're going to get into that. Your heartbeat, every beat of the heart releases an algorithm, so releases a rhythm. if you're in coherence, doof, doof, doof. There is a vibrational field of information that's signaling every cell in your body how to react or respond. When you're erratic, anxiety, well, you're going to feel anxiety. Your gut's going to shut down. Your cells are going to be like, oh my God, emergency state. He's freaking out again. And then your respiratory is going to go up and all these different systems are going to crash. And when you do this for long enough, you're going to get dis-ease. When you're not at ease, when you're so distant from ease, you get a disease because you're not at ease with yourself. Okay? Now, over time, if you are just showing up in life unaware of the systems, respiratory, cardiovascular, lymphatic, digestive, your problem isn't your food, your problem is your stress. Do you know what triglycerides are? This is what I learned a long time ago when I was researching this. What is the most valuable region in the human body? Can anyone tell me? Where is the most valuable area in the human body? Can anyone tell me? Triglycerides is this. When cortisol, your adrenal glands are two little glands that are on top of the kidneys, right? They release a hormone, a family of stress hormones called glucocorticoids. Three main primary hormones: cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine. Cortisol, adrenaline, non-adrenaline, and all these other hormones. Adrenaline comes in and out. You're driving and there's a car that pulls out in front of you. Put on the brakes, you feel the adrenaline. Comes in quickly, heart rate goes up, temperature goes up, you get a spike of energy and you kind of shit yourself, and then the threat's gone and then adrenaline's out the body. But cortisol comes in slow and it stays in your body for a long time. So over time, when there's excessive amounts of cortisol, you're in this stress response and your body thinks, shit, it doesn't know the difference between a lion, you getting chased by the police, you not getting your favorite ice cream, you not getting your favorite toy, mental stress, it doesn't know the difference. It has no logic. All it knows is danger, 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 threat, 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 glucocorticoids, over excessive stress hormones. Now, cortisol, what it does is, heart is a good answer, but I was more looking for your gut, right? Because you've got all your organs in here, all your organs. Your heart is protected by your rib cage, but all your organs are here. They're not really protected. You're vulnerable here, right? You've got so many organs here. So when there's too much cortisol, your body goes shit, danger, and it starts to turn the cortisol into triglycerides, and it creates this stubborn fat. Why does it create this stubborn fat? And that's that fat you can't get rid of. Why does it create this stubborn fat here? Because it's trying to protect you. It's a defense mechanism. It thinks you're in danger, so it's going to protect the most valuable region in your body so you don't get killed. Because when these big fangs come piercing through your body, it probably pays to have a little bit of fat here. Probably pays because you're not going to get enough food and you need some energy. I don't know why the body does this, but it creates this stubborn fat. I used to be a PT, a very good fucking PT. I'll just say that's probably my ego, but I thought I was a good PT. I was a CrossFit coach and a PT, Olympic lifting coach, all that kind of stuff. I did that. And I used to do a total transformation package where a lot of women used to come see me, and I used to transform their bodies in 90 days. And I'd get them on all these detoxes and all this kind of stuff. But I'd always have one or two women that couldn't get rid of the stubborn body fat. They just could not get rid of it. No matter how much fruit detox, juice detox, fasting, all that kind of stuff, they just couldn't get rid of it. Then I went down that rabbit hole and I started studying stress and that. And it's because of their stress levels. It wasn't because of their diet, it's their stress levels. So once we learned how to activate the parasympathetic nervous system and bring their bodies back into balance, then this fat started to go, right? But yeah, that's that stubborn subcutaneous fat. So if you're sitting there and you've got that fat and you don't know how to get rid of it, sometimes it's because stress is the problem, not your diet, right? That's why some people put on a lot of weight in stress. Some people don't. Sometimes it's weird like that. Not going to lie, you look like an older version of my enemy. Well, that's good. If it's triggering you, then that means that there's maybe some unsettled energy for you to process. If it's not triggering you, then it's a good association. So stress, again, your brain only has a certain capacity to hold on to stressful energy before it discharges it into different parts of the body. Everyone accumulates stress differently. Now, this is the difference between genetic predisposition and genetic predeterminism. The old belief was, well, if my mum's got breast cancer, I'm going to get breast cancer, and it's hereditary. That's called a genetic predisposition. But what epigenetics teaches us through the model of epigenetics, anyone that's learned a little bit about it, and I don't know a lot about it, I know a little bit about it, is that you may have a genetic predisposition, but doesn't mean it's a genetic predeterminism, because you can get two twins they're genetically the same, but one twin will die a lot earlier than another twin, and one twin will manifest some sort of sickness and another twin won't. So they started doing a lot of research into this, and they figured out that just because a family member has a gene that causes the C word, cancer, doesn't mean you're going to get it. You may be dispositioned to get it, but doesn't mean you're going to get it. There are certain factors that will turn on that gene, right? Now, the factors are lifestyle, right? We know that exercising helps. Are you lazy? Are you active? Diet. Okay, diet's a big one, because if you eat shit food. But the third one is the most important, most fascinating, is perception. And a lot of people don't understand this when I talk about this. And I learned a lot of this off the work of Bruce Lipton, and I'm sure a lot of you guys would have heard of Bruce Lipton. He's the one, maybe a long time ago, made me aware of this. Perception matters. Perception, like, you can have a shitty diet and not exercise, but have a healthy perspective, and you'll be a lot healthier than someone that has a shitty perspective and a healthy diet, right? Because sometimes I know people that have passed away that have been fitness fucking gurus, right? It's because of the stress. It's the stress. Stress can turn on your cancer cells way before food does. Because what stress disrupts the nervous system, food doesn't. If you don't exercise, it doesn't, right? It makes you lazy, and food can kind of create spikes in insulin and make you a little bit more fat, but it doesn't disrupt your nervous system. Your nervous system is the backbone of good health, your nervous system, the way you feel, because the way you feel is indicating to your body how it should react to reality. And that is governed by the way you perceive reality, and more importantly, the way you breathe. And I like that, Stardust. It's good when you can completely surrender, because what you're saying there is surrender. When you can surrender, it's a beautiful thing, and it's an art to surrender. But a lot of people, they don't know how to surrender because they can't lose control, because they need to be in control. And we can talk a little bit about that later, because surrender is a very big thing. To surrender is to kind of transcend your ego and say, God, and it doesn't have to be religious, it's more of a letting go of control, trusting the process. Take me, take it. I give you my power. I'm just a conduit. Use me in whatever way you want to use me. I invite the divine creative force to move through me, my higher power. True surrender is to let go of control, to let go. And control is an illusion in a sense anyway, because there's a saying, you can't help the experience, you can only try to understand why. Some things you can't control, they're predestined. What you can control is your reaction. Your reaction, and this is just my opinion, your reaction is free will. Experiences are predetermined because they happen from a chain reaction of events and sequence of events that result in events. But the way you react to it is an option, is a choice. And I feel that there's more free will in your reaction or response than the experience. And based on your resonance or response, you are then shifting your reality into a new trajectory. You're shifting alternate realities, meaning that I come home, I've just been abused, right? I've been physically abused, and I'm sitting here and I'm just like so angry and angry. That's happened. I can't help what happened. It's happened the way it happened, and that's the way it happened. But now the control is, how am I going to react to it? Now, it wasn't my fault. fuck them. They're the one that they bullied me. It's their fault. And he did this and they did that and she cheated on me. And I start to blame. But it's justified because I was a victim. But your body doesn't give a shit. It doesn't care what happened. It has no logic. It only cares. It doesn't know the difference. If I close my eyes and I start to think some worst case scenario, I start to feel so ugly, or I start to really talk bad to myself compared to me just getting abused. It doesn't know the difference between a fabricated thought and a real life experience. Physiologically, it'll start to respond or react the same way. So I just get abused. I'm at home and I start blaming, and then I start victimizing. I'm the victim. How could they do this to me? Because I'm personalizing it. But not only that, I feel it in my heart and I feel it in my being, and I start to now dwell in this anxiety and hey Gina, how you doing? And I start to now, and then the next week, I'm like, what happened to me? This happened to me, and how could they do that to me? I'll show you. So that now has created a domino of effect. And now that is all influenced by the way I'm projecting. Compared to version 2, I come home, fuck, that happened. Okay, let me just process this. And I start to just breathe into it. And this takes a lot of courage, and I'm not saying you're there yet. Forgive them, Father, for they do not know. It's okay. I forgive them. I just now have to disconnect myself from that experience and this environment, and I'm just going to really focus on love and getting my nervous system into a good state. I'm going to focus on my blessings, and I'm just going to learn from this. You know what? I'm going to take some boxing classes. Whatever it is, it's very difficult, and only the minority would shift into a state of love, even in the most challenging experiences. But what I've learned is that it doesn't matter what happened. And this can be referenced to anything in your life. It's insignificant what happened. What happened. It couldn't have happened any other way. But what's happening inside you is your responsibility. And then what you're projecting is your signature. And that creates a domino effect to what you're going to experience. Because now if you look at it from the perspective of data and pretty much information, you are a system of intelligence. You have a field of energy. That field of energy is governed by information, and that information is projecting this field of energy. Then there's a major system of intelligence, which is the big field of intelligence, which is a direct kind of correlation to what you're projecting. So you're projecting this information. That data is taken through the quantum or the intelligent field. And then however this greater intelligence works, it takes this data and it almost gives you this feedback loop, a universal feedback loop that kind of showcases or exposes what you're governed by, so you can become aware of it. Because it's a game of awareness. That's all it is. Life wouldn't exist without awareness. And the difference between version 1, version 2, and the best version of yourself is how aware are you? Because the more aware you are, the more your life will change, because you're aware. If you're not aware, you're working off redundant, outdated, old, repetitive patterns. And a result of that is experiencing the same things over and over again. As you become aware, new choices, new behaviors, new experiences, new thoughts, new, because of awareness. You're aware. You can't pinpoint how aware an individual is. It's not something you go, you know what, I'm at the ceiling of awareness. It's infinite. It's the sky. It's the ocean, And when you kind of marry, or when you kind of immerse yourself in awareness, you are opening yourself to infinite possibilities. You're opening yourself to a bigger, like an infinite spectrum of quantum possibilities, which will collapse into your experience through the observation effect, through the measurement theory. through the act of observation. Through the act of observation, you are collapsing the wave function, and that wave function is probability, possibility. It's all mathematics. That's why mathematics is big in the universe. Fibonacci. It's everywhere. Mathematics. You look at phi, you look at binary, you look at all the patterns of the information. There are things that are very evident in how this reality works. There are patterns, there's mathematics, there's sacred geometry, there's fractals. These are all like the building blocks of the universe. There's atoms, there's particles, all that kind of stuff. But experientially, that doesn't mean anything. But experientially, what it means to your everyday life is that there's coherence and there's incoherence. There is love and there is fear, right? And you are a container that is a vessel, right? This is an avatar. An avatar is a perfect word for it. It's an avatar for consciousness. Consciousness is a 13-letter word that we give to the animation of the avatar. We don't actually know what consciousness is. No one actually fucking knows what it is, because it's almost like the eyes see everything, but they can't see themselves. The knife cuts everything, but it can't cut itself. Consciousness just doesn't know what it is, because we're trying to understand it through the intellect. The intellect is a very localized experience coming from a non-local consciousness. Consciousness is non-local because it doesn't exist in space-time. The frequency is so fast that it has to burrow this avatar to lock itself into this 3D reality. We call this 3D reality in this electromagnetic sort of spectrum. And in this spectrum of electromagnetism, which kind of is navigated through this avatar, it's governed by our breath, right? These are the key things. But consciousness is going from this non-local field, localizes itself by inhabiting within this avatar, encompassing within this avatar, and then its function is to experience reality, and it does this through awareness. So it's just aware. It's not subjected to this individualistic experience. It's just aware. And it's the same consciousness within you, me, and every living organism. It's the same. It doesn't it's not isolated to the one individual. It's the same. So now you've got this one consciousness that is just aware. That's how powerful awareness is, because awareness is a direct experience of consciousness. Then that's primary experience. Then the secondary consciousness is the result of the conceptualized mind, the ego construct, or the intellect, however you want to call it. It is the result of everything that you have gone through. Every memory, every bit of information, everything that's been processed since your first breath, observing, your program is programming, concepts on top of concepts on top of concepts, until you project this sort of framework of reality which you navigate through, which is the secondary consciousness, which is being observed by primary consciousness. Now, here's the dilemma. Attention is the bridge, or is the focus in what kind of references your your present experience. Meaning that consciousness, when it's focused, it's attention. So attention now is identified to the construct, which is a secondary consciousness. It's identified to the memories, the experiences, the feelings, the thoughts, and then it's conceptualized itself as a form, as a person. So now you've got this false sense of self running around trying to find this fulfillment, doing it from this very unstable place. It's unstable because it is a phantom that is the result of conditioning, of memory. It is a projection that is keeping you in this illusion of the ego construct, which is secondary to the primary. Am I making sense? Maybe because it makes sense to me, but I don't know if it's making sense to you. Just let me know if that makes sense. So now we are so lost in that construct that at our deepest program, at our deepest sort of desire, I'm talking about your ancient desire, you're looking for connection. You're looking to go home, but you're trying to find it through people, money, addiction, sex, gambling, this, that, whatever it is. You're trying to find fulfillment, but the ego will never be fulfilled. You can't be fulfilled because your identity is a projection. It's not real. It is a projection. It is a phantom. It has been kind of hijacked by the ego. Your consciousness has been hijacked by the ego construct. It's an imposter. So we're running around, right, in this construct, which is the result of everything we've gone through, projected into reality. And the projection is your body. Even when you look at yourself in the mirror, I'm looking at myself. This is the projection. And this is the result of everything that I've gone through. But because now I'm identified with every thought, I'm identified with every feeling, it personalizes the experience to be so real. I'm so real. I've been abused. They did this to me, and oh my God. And the flight or fight response is the backbone that gives you this kind of, that even reinforces how real this is. Because the flight or fight response kind of gives you this experience of fear. And fear makes life feel very fucking real because it's moving through your body as a current of energy, and you're so disconnected and separated that you feel alone and like, this is who I am and I just feel shit and I'm not going to make it, and I feel inadequate, and there's scarcity and there's insecurity and there's this fear and that fear. It's the flight or flight response, disconnecting you from the awareness, the primary consciousness. So when people say, do you know who you are? What do you say to them? Well, that's a good question. You know, it depends who I'm talking to, because you're not going to go into this conversation with someone that doesn't have the depth or gravity to understand your level of consciousness. That makes no sense. You know, so if I'm speaking to you, I'll give you a dialogue right now. I go to someone, a random, or anyone. Who are you? I'm John. Okay, John. Would you agree John is your name? Yeah, that's who I am. Okay, so can you change your name? Yeah, I guess so. So if you change your name to Bob, would you then be Bob? Because yeah. So what? Would you say that, is it fair to say that that's just like a label that you may put on like a jar and you can just change the label? So are you defining yourself as a label? Well, I guess I'm not a label. John's just my name. Okay, it's a name. So we can say a name is like a label because you can change it to, Jerry. You can change it to Samantha. You can change your name, but what really is a name? I mean, it's a sound that's being expressed through my vocal cords. It's like R, U, E, but this sound is obviously processed through your memory, and then it's associated to the feeling of me, right? He goes, okay. He goes, well, on my body. Okay, well, that's a good answer, but research shows that your cells are rejuvenating every 10 years. You're getting new cells. So if I, get a microscope and I break your body down, there are trillions of cells that you're made out of. Can I get a cell and look inside that cell and see, hey, there's John? I guess not. Well, he goes, well, on my mind, on my thoughts. Okay, well, if I scan your brain, and I look inside your brain, do I know what you're thinking? No, you don't. So your thoughts are very unique to you, but your thoughts are always changing. So your beliefs are changing, your concepts are changing, your ideas are changing. So how are your thought? Oh, well, I'm a doctor, I'm a builder, I'm a father. Okay, these are qualities and professions that you strive to be or you uphold in your community, but you can change all that. Well, I don't fucking know. Who am I? Well, that's right. You don't know. And I don't know. And that's the right fucking answer, is I don't know. And a lot of people won't say I don't know because they think they know who they are. And if I have this conversation with anyone, I can immediately tell you that I will humbly and respectfully break every paradigm that will come out of a conceptualized mind, because what is intellectualized is observed. It's observed. I guess you're self-conscious as into reality versus that not so reality. Yeah, the answer is I don't know, because I don't know opens the portal of discovering the true sense of self. You can't be something that you conceptualize, because that in itself is a projection being observed. You can't define yourself through some sort of framework. The experience of who am I is one that is sensed, not one that is constructed. Because that construction is a projection of the awareness. So anything that I construct mentally is a framework or a definition that's confining me to the limitation of that construction, which is also a projection coming from consciousness. What are your thoughts on finding ourselves? Finding ourselves is letting go of who we think we are. That's how you find yourself. Let go of who you think you are. As soon as you start to let go of who you think you are and just let it all go, and you start to peel away all the boundaries, right? And you start to discover that there is actually no one there. There is actually no one there. And that's hard to understand. That is very, very, very hard to understand because we're trying to understand it. You can't understand it. It's like the fish that swims in water. Fish doesn't know what water is. It's its existence. If you go to a fish, what is water? I don't know. It's fucking, what is water? But yet it's its existence. It's born in water. It lives in water. It can see the sun, but it's never experienced it, that there's a different life out there. But it doesn't know what water is. It doesn't know what water is. And just like consciousness, it's there. We're consciousness, but we just don't know what it is. Because the fish can feel water. It has a sense of feeling of water, but it can't talk about water. It doesn't know what water is. It can try to describe it, but the only way it can truly know what water is by feeling it. And just like consciousness with us, to know who you are, in my opinion, is you have to, or it's wise to become what this is. Look, there's no point reinventing the wheel. Dr. Joe Dispenza, when he talks about you got to go from a somebody to a nobody, from a something to no thing, from some place to no place, he's talking about discovering the true nature of self. The true nature of self is a vibration. It's a sensation that comes from a consciousness of awareness. And that awareness is infinite, because when you immerse the attention and isolate attention in awareness, you don't exist. You actually dissolve. It's the raindrop emerging with the ocean. The raindrop always had the ocean inside the raindrop, but when you emerge with the ocean, you're just one. You're just one. You just are. And that's something you can't speak about. We can speak about it as a reference or as guidance, but experientially, the intellect can't experience it. And this is why when you ask someone, who are you? Whatever comes out of their mouth is just a misinterpretation of the true sense of self. Who are you is, someone said, I am. Again, deeper than the I am, you just are. That's like, when you can feel without thinking, that is the doorway. And I'm not talking about feeling from a past emotional pattern paradigm. I'm talking about feeling from an intuitive sense of experience. It's what they describe as being, right? You're just being, human being. You go from doing to being. We're always doing things. We're always identified in every single, variable of thought. We're always identified with our feelings. We're identified with the future. We're identified with things. This is called objective reality. Objective reality needs a subject to observe the objects. Your thoughts are objects. Your feelings are objects. Your materialistic values are objects. Items are objects. These are all objects being projected from the subject. Samadhi is a Sanskrit term that comes from the sutras, which is the highest form of yoga, from the 8 limbs of yoga, when the subject and the object become one. Nirvana is the 7th sutra, or the 7th limb, which is the transcendence of the ego mind. So if you study the 8 limbs of yoga, that comes from Patanjali, which is an ancient mythological saint, which left behind the sutras. Yoga, asanas is only one limb of that. Meditation is another limb. Pratyahara is another limb, which is another Sanskrit word for deassociation of the senses. which is like a form of yoga nidra. Yoga nidra is when you disconnect or deassociate with senses. You've got obviously your postures, asanas. You've got your niyamas, and a few other things. I can't remember from the top of my head all of them. But the highest form is samadhi. Samadhi is recognizing that you don't exist. And this is where, when Buddha said pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, what is meant by that is that if you look deep enough, there is no one there to suffer. There's only a choice. Let me repeat that. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And if you look deep enough, there is no one there that is suffering. No one really there that is suffering, only a choice. And that choice is where you focus your attention. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying is that the nervous system, the dimension of your mental thought processing, the emotional guidance system is all kind of contributing to this experience of me, which is kind of personalizing everything in this very individualistic manner to give you this, self-preservation of an egotistic mindset, which doesn't really exist. It's all projected. Suffering is inevitable. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. If you look deep enough, there's no one actually suffering. There's only a choice. And that choice is where you focus your attention. Because when I suffer, what's really happening? My nervous system is overactive. Stress hormones are getting pumped, which is then creating this energy. And that energy is then creating this thought process, a narrative, which then feeds this vicious cycle that's perpetuated and projected into my reality. Now I'm perceiving reality through the lens or the medium of the way that I'm feeling, which is all a phenomena which is secondary to the primary experience of awareness, because awareness kind of gives the stage or the space for all to manifest in. Right? Now, the illusion, which is a fucking stubborn illusion called Maya, and Maya is like throwing a net around all our consciousness, all our individual conscious perceptions, or all our minds, so I say, that gives us this illusion of me. Ramana Maharishi, which was an absolute OG of a yogi that wrote the book Who Am I?, who is a big advocate of Advaita Vedanta, which is a non-dualistic approach to meditation and achieving a state of samadhi through just being, and not doing, through just observation and pure awareness. He talks about that when you ask yourself, who am I? It is a question that allows the attention to introspect or self-inquire, that will change over time. So if you ask yourself, who am I today? You write it down. A month from now, who am I? A month from now, who am I? You can start to see an evolution of the way your mind starts to process that question. But more importantly, when you isolate the I for long enough, just the I, and you just focus on I, it will dissolve and it will go back to its source. And that source is presence. It's awareness. It is thank you, Vista. It is the space that allows all manifestation to materialize in. Now, experientially, what does that mean for us as an individual? It means this. First of all, let's break it down. We all want to live as long as we can. And we don't have the resources like Brian Johnson's and some of these biohackers that are spending millions of dollars, the Kardashians, and got all these doctors, and we don't have these resources, right? The quickest thing that is going to aid you to a quicker departure is your breath. Now, a lot of people don't understand this. Before the food or the inactivity or the stress ages you quicker, which all contributes to your aging, right? One thing is the primary contributor to aging, which is your breath. In yoga, we don't measure age through numbers, we measure age through breathing. And what that means is that how many times you breathe per minute matters. People that have anxiety, they breathe 20 to 30 times per minute. People that are very calm and collected, 10 or less breaths. On average, around 15. A tortoise breathes 4 to 5 breaths per minute, lives way past 100. How many times does a dog breathe per minute? A lot. And how long does a dog live? Now, I'm not saying there's any science behind this, because this is just from my own research. You can resonate with it, you can dissonate with it, it's really up to you. But my logic, and I like to think I'm a little bit sophisticated, and I've researched this for a very long time. I can tell you that your aging, your breathing is accelerating your aging faster than anything else. It's your breathing, because your breathing will activate the parasympathetic or the sympathetic nervous system. Your breathing will indicate to your body how to react to reality. Your breathing will determine your heart rate. Are you breathing fast or are you breathing slow? Your breathing will start to induce different physiological responses in the body. Having a fast breath is just propelling you into a chaotic, anxious state, right? Having a very slow breath is keeping you very calm, cool, and collected. But you're not your flesh, your spirit that's inside the body. The spirit doesn't pass away. Yes. Call it spirit, call it soul, call it chi, prana, call it electromagnetic energy. It's an animation. It's energy. Einstein, energy doesn't die, it only transforms, right? One thing we can control right now is our breathing. Now, this is my equation. I'm no Einstein, but this is what I think, my equation. Time is the most ultimate commodity. If you want to be rich, give yourself more time. That's how you become rich, because someone that's got $1 billion, that's only got a year to live, will give all their wealth for another 10 years. You, 30, 40 years from now, would give up everything, all your wealth, to come back and live poor, but to have more time. Right? Every breath is God's breath, brother. Every breath is God's breath, if you're tuned in to that vibration, right? Time is the ultimate commodity. Time is success. More than money. More than money. It's time. It is time. To give yourself more time, it's breathing. It's breathing. And my mission on this earth is to spread breathwork. And I'm not talking about breathwork you see all over, the internet, people breathing like that. It's just, my breathwork's different. I teach it differently. They're more compact sessions that we do on the channel. But I just want people to become more aware of their breath and slow down their breathing. That's it. Deborah says, disagree, that's an individual opinion. It is not quantity, but quality of the purpose that counts. It is not quantity, but the quality of the purpose that counts. Well, yeah, I can't disagree with that. Everything's going to be quality. Quality first. Of course, you want to do long, deep breaths. Assuming that you do long, deep breaths, slowing down your breath, right? Slowing down your breath. Breath awareness. Because as you become aware of the breath, you're going to naturally take in longer, deeper, slower breaths. You think words are more powerful than your breath? You mean affirmations? Well, if you stop breathing, you die. That's how powerful the breath is, right? And we can manipulate our breath. Like, people don't even understand what intermittent hypoxia is. Intermittent hypoxia is when you start to, deplete oxygen levels and increase CO2 levels. But when you manipulate that in the body, your body goes into this stress response and it starts to release a lot of different premium chemicals and hormones. Like there's certain things the body reacts really well to. There's eustress and there's distress, right? Um, there's eustress and there's distress. Eustress is good stress. Distress is like bad stress, meaning that, it's going to create some sort of emergency state in the body, and that can lead to overactive stress hormones, anxiety, stress, all that kind of stuff. Eustress is exercise because it shocks the body, especially high intensity exercise, and the body reacts through hypertrophy, resistance training, all that kind of stuff. You build more muscle, you break down the muscle. It's stress adaptation. Saunas are stressing the body, right? Because it's very, very hot. You start to get a lot of good benefits. It starts to decrease your likelihood of cardiovascular disease. Fasting stresses the body, because when you don't eat, what happens? The body stresses and it starts to clean itself out, autophagy, right? Ice baths, you jump in an ice bath, cold shower, stresses the body, and then you start to build brown fat, which is a really good sort of fat that helps your immune system stay strong. Then there's hypoxia, breath work. And when you're practicing this level of breath work, you are manipulating certain responses in the body. And if you get this, you understand, okay, I don't need to have $2 million a year to biohack the body. I just need to understand how the body works. So I've been really, really, really getting into that lately. And I'll teach more about it as we go on. But the first thing you can control in longevity, because we all want longevity, is your breath. Now, without going into the obvious stuff like diets, exercise, which, it's very, very obvious to do these things. The next thing is energy psychology, right? Energy psychology is a very interesting term, and I don't really know how to explain it. It may be a subjective term, but it's almost like your mindset affects your energy, right? Your mindset. And your mindset, a lot of people try and sometimes control their thoughts, but really, I feel is that your thoughts are governed by your feelings. So it's more powerful to kind of, transverse your feelings into a higher vibration than trying to fix the thoughts. Because the thoughts are, thank you, Rob, the thoughts are secondary and the feelings are primary. When you go for a run or you do some exercises, you feel different and your thoughts change. Right? Because you've ran it out of you. And you've exercised it out of you. And that's why some people, they're addicted to running, because it sweats out the demons. They're addicted to the ice bath because it gives them this feeling. What are your thoughts on telepathy? Have you seen a podcast? Telepathy, again, comes from morphogenetic fields, the work of Rupert Sheldrake. A morphogenetic field is a field, an intelligent field around your body. It doesn't have any limitations to how it interacts, because it works on the speed of thought. The speed of thought is faster than the speed of light. So people can communicate within one another through morphogenetic fields. And through these fields, it's almost like you can walk into a room without anyone saying anything. You can look into someone's eyes or tune your focus into their field, and you start to get a sense and innate intelligence of their vibration, right? I like that person's vibe. It's their vibration. You get this innate sort of sensation of their vibe before they even open their mouth. You can see the density of that person through the projection of their vibration before they even speak. And that's how powerful these morphogenetic fields are. And it's no different to a mother knowing that her daughter's in danger somewhere else in the world. They just feel it. It's a morphogenetic field. It's no different to thinking about someone and they call you. It's a morphogenetic field. It's no different to a dog running up to the door minutes before the owner comes home. It's a morphogenetic field. So Rupert Sheldrake went into a lot of research into this, and he talks about these science, morphogenetic fields, and we've covered it on the channel, and we can go deep into it. But yes, telepathy definitely exists. It's not whether you believe in it or not; it's whether you're tuned into it or not, and you have to be very open to kind of really tune into that, I think. But there is a phenomena there. How you tune into it, I don't really know, but there is a phenomenon there. So yeah, energy psychology. So what we can control that can affect our energy without the vigorous exercise is breath work. And we're going to do some breath work soon. Maybe once we get to around, I don't know, I'm very lazy tonight. If we get to 30,000 likes, we'll do some breath work. So once we can start to manipulate the breath through rhythmic conscious control, controlling the breathing through rhythmic control, right? We start to flood the body full of oxygen. And because our mind is now fixated and focused on breath work, it's a mantra. Mantras are hymns or verbs that the monks and the ancient sages gave us that allows us, our mind, to be fixated on a repetitive pattern. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugagandim Pustivardhanam Urva Rukamiva Pandanan. That is a very ancient mantra. It's a very powerful mantra. It's called the Maha Mrityunjaya mantra. It's the mantra of Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva was an ancient alien that came from a very intelligent source that influenced a lot of the Indian Hinduism evolution in how they kind of look up to these deities. It wasn't just a god. He was a being, a blue being, and he was very, very powerful, creation and destruction. And that mantra, when you sing it, Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugagandim Pustivardhanam Urva Rukamiva Pandanan Mertyo Mukshi Amritat. People have been singing this, chanting this mantra for thousands of years. So within the quantum realm, it has a lot of power. And they knew this, the ancients. So when they used to sing these mantras, they would raise their vibration. Om is a very, very powerful mantra. It's the syllables of Om, the vibration, it activates the vagus nerve. These aren't spiritual. These are universal. Just because the Hindus or ancient India gave them to us doesn't mean they own it. It just, they were fortunate enough to have these sages that downloaded this information through deep meditation, and that then gave us these texts of Upanishads, very, very, very powerful texts. They gave us Tantra, and it's not sexual. Tantra in its essence is very powerful in self-discovery. They gave us the Vedantas. They gave us Mahabharata. They gave us the Bhagavad Gita. They gave us yoga. They gave us meditation. But these were just sages that would sit around and meditate and download this information, and they were given this information, right? And then look at the world today. Where would the world be without yoga? There's yoga in every corner. Where would the world be without pranayama? Pranayama is breath work. Where would the yoga... we're very fortunate to have this knowledge in our world, and so integrated in every sort of society today, if you want to access that. So mantras are very powerful. So when we do breath work and we start to breathe repetitively, we start to flood oxygen into our body. And we're going to do that soon. And once we start to do that, we start to change our projection. Our projection changes, our energy. Because when you wake up in the morning, you go throughout your day, you're being bombarded full of information. The world is reminding you who you are as a role, as a avatar, as a conscious agent, as an ego in the world. And you go out there and you're continuously reminded who you are, and you're living through the expectations not only of yourself, but through other people. Hey, what's wrong? You're not yourself today. So people expect you to be a certain way. So now you're going out into this world being bombarded full of information. You're scrolling on your phone, and there's all this information coming in, activating your nervous system. And then this nervous system is stressing you out for most of us, because it's giving you this kind of experience of not making it. It's giving you this experience of not being good enough. It's giving you this experience of feeling rejected, not being heard, abandonment, whatever it is. You can tell instantly, immediately, if you're in a state of harmony or if you're in a state of stress. Is your nervous system, right? When you go out every single day and life is bombarding you full of information that keeps activating your nervous system, well, the energy psychology in that is that your energy is now going to be operating or is going to be flowing in a very erratic state of vibration. It's a current of energy that's very erratic, that's moving through your system, and that energy is now generating a thought process equal to that energy which you're identified with. And when you identify with something, you embody it into an experience, because thoughts are just frequency. And when you identify with a frequency, you pull it into your orbit called your consciousness, and you experience that vibration. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm shit. I'm never going to make it. Or this, that, blah, 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 blah. Oh my God, I really fucked up this time. You start to, the narrative is secondary. What's primary is the frequency that it carries. That's what's primary. So half the time, your body doesn't give a shit what you're thinking. It's got no logic. It just knows, oh my God, he's in danger. She's in danger. She's in danger. She's in danger. Oh my God, he's in danger. What do we do? What do we do? Flight or fight response. Oh my God, protect him. Predict what's going to happen next. And you're on edge. You're in anxiety, and it's like something bad is going to happen. Something bad is going to happen. You're projecting that into the world, and you keep experiencing the same loops over and over again. And then you want your life to change. This is why Dr. Joe Dispenza's formula is fucking amazing. Your personality creates your personal reality. He nailed it. Fucking nailed it. Your personality is made up of the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. That's what your personality is made up. So to change your vibration, you've got to really focus on what thoughts am I identified with? Are my thoughts elevating me? Are my thoughts escalating me to a new level of awareness? Are my thoughts inspiring me? My thoughts recently have made me feel like a failure, because for whatever reason, my thoughts are like, oh my God, you really fucked because I had a bad investment. And my thoughts are like, you've let your family down, you fucked up, look at you. And I've been living with this anxiety. And, today I didn't want to do a live, and I'm just processing it, right? And again, I'm human like everyone else. You're not going to get to a point it's okay to feel these feelings, but how long am I going to stay in this feeling for? That's the difference between me and my future self. It's a refractory period that I bring myself back into the state of love, right? So I've been feeling like a failure. I've been feeling like messed up. I'm feeling like I should have invested. So my nervous system completely got jacked, because it's like, oh, you could have done this with the money, you could have done that, you could have, should have, would have. All these things I'm feeling. And I didn't want to do the live today because I'm like, I'm not feeling my best. I don't want to show up with this energy, and I was just watching. I was watching my thoughts just like, and this is just one day, 24 hours. And now I've come on, and it's been a great conversation. So thank you guys for being in and allowing me to hold space for a beautiful, powerful conversation. But now it's like, okay, what do I do? Well, I have to do a big breathwork session. I've got to do a big breathwork session. I've got to change my radio station back into a state of love frequency. And I've got to actually change and that's going to shift my perception, right? Because I don't care about money. Money comes and goes. I'm here, I'm breathing. Some people, they won't wake up tomorrow. Some people don't have any limbs and they're motivational speakers. I've got no right to fucking complain. So then this is just me putting myself in check. It's like, check yourself, man. Check yourself. Like, what are you projecting into the world right now? You're sitting there complaining and you're bathing into, thanks, Richard, man. Thank you very much, brother. You're bathing in this, disgusting energy because you lost a bit of money and now you could, come on, man, snap out of it. So, but when I do the breath work, which we're going to do soon, I get myself into a state, and then that state, I start to focus on my blessings. I'm alive, and I'm going to lose everything in life anyway. But one thing that I'm going to give myself is time. And it makes no sense to me in my mission to have as much time as I can with my daughter and my family if I sit in a state of stress. Do you know what I mean? Because that's going to accelerate my life expectancy 5 times quicker than I'm in a state of love. And that's the difference. The difference is that the most ultimate currency is energy. Energy is the most ultimate currency, not money. Money comes and goes. And again, anyone that thinks, look, money is what we're conditioned, and we need it, don't get me wrong, we need it to pay our bills and that, but it shouldn't be your primary goal in life. Your primary goal should be to be successful, but successful within yourself. You know, having a successful mindset where you can pierce through variables, challenges, obstacles, hurdles. Yeah, I lost money. Okay, well, I'm alive. You know. All right, Rob. Thanks, man. Thanks for subscribing. But I'm here. I'm breathing. You know, adding value to people's life, having this, you know, being alive today in this moment, immersing myself in this experience. This is what rich is. Being rich. If you're truly rich, then nothing will ever fuck with your emotional state, because you are established in your truth. And when there's malfunction, disorder, or death, it's a testament of how established you are. Because only then you'll see how you function in anarchy, in chaos, in destruction. Yeah, when things are going good, yeah, we can be the best version of ourselves, but who are you when things are going bad? What does that say about you? It says that you are a victim of cause and effect. You know, your environment is influencing the way you feel. You put yourself out of that environment, you're going to fail, you know? So I'm subjected to the feelings that are signaling certain responses in the body from my environment. But when you're a creator of life, you are causing an effect. Your environment is changing for you because you are feeling greater than your environment. You are feeling greater than your circumstances. And if you truly want to make it, you've got to make it in this moment. You've got to make it in this moment. You can't make it when that happens. You can't make it when this happens. You've got to make it now. If you can't make it now, you're never going to make it. Because you're living in an endless dopamine fucking cycle that's going to keep you desiring for more, earning for more, and your unquenchable thirst will never be satisfied because there's more. And we're all going to depart one day. And this is what makes you fucking indestructible. Coming to peace with death. And you have to have such respect for it. And this is what I call my Bushido training. Is a Bushido is a Japanese samurai code for the way of the warrior. I've taken that into a very spiritual perspective because a Bushido is they live by a certain code. And one code is not fearing death. And if you fear death, it's because you have regret. And you have FOMO and you feel like you're going to miss out, right? And that is you taking life for granted because you're not promised tomorrow. Life is a gift. It's been given to you. And a lot of our, you know, brothers and sisters, they will not make it till tomorrow. They'll not make it to next week. You know, we've been given so much already. We've been given so much. So for me wanting more, it's like ungrateful for what I've been given. Me wanting more should be a present, should be a bonus, should be something that I am privileged to, that the universe has permitted more. You know, I've been given so much already. I need to be content with that. I need to say thank you for everything that you have given me. I am truly grateful for having everything in my life. I'm truly grateful for every meal. I'm truly grateful for the clothes on my back. I'm truly grateful for my family. I'm truly grateful for my ability to express my emotions. I'm truly grateful for the roof over my head. I'm truly grateful. I'm grateful. And if I'm permitted for tomorrow, I will embrace it wholeheartedly and I'll give it my best shot. You need to be programmed like that. Because that, to me, is a fucking hero. Because you have figured out that life is a gift and it's not one that should be taken for granted. And if you have that level of gratitude, you watch your life change. That's all you need to do is be grateful. But we want more. And that's the delusion, is that wanting more is always going to keep you in this suspended state of disconnection, because you're not ever going to embrace what you have. You see? You won't embrace what you have because you don't have enough. Being grateful, that's the very beautiful practices coming in the chat. The members, they're sharing that they are implementing this level of gratitude, the attitude of gratitude. And Dr. Joe Dispenza, gratitude is the end signature of an experience, right? Let's just put gratitude aside. What does gratitude even mean? Okay, we can create a narrative and say appreciation, being thankful, showing respect. Let's put that aside. Don't worry about the narrative. What does it mean as a signature of energy? What does it mean energetically? This is what energy psychology is, really understanding how to influence different vibrational states in the body beyond your identification of me. Because you shouldn't need something to be grateful for. You should just understand, if you want longevity, that gratitude is the antidote to stress. 100%. You want to eliminate stress from the body, be grateful. Because gratitude, what that does, that energy, and I'm not talking about the meaning that's associated within your neocortex. I'm talking about the energy of gratitude is so powerful. What it does to the body, I don't understand, but it heals the fucking body. It heals the body. It heals the body in ways that science doesn't even understand. It heals diseases. It heals the ego. It heals everything. It almost puts the body back into its natural blueprint. Even that Ho'oponopono poem, that was big for a while. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. That's all based around gratitude, man. That poem, if you look into it, that's a very powerful mantra. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. Repeating those words over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. And again, this is energy psychology, in my opinion. It is understanding how to influence different energetic states in the body. Stardust says everything is energy is love. Everything is energy is everything is love. Is everything that you feel. It's a source of divine light. Beautifully said. We are all expressions of consciousness. Divinity is our inherent state. We are all divine. What has camouflaged that is your narrative, is your story. Your story has camouflaged your power, your divinity. Your problem, I'm not saying I'm not trying to isolate anyone. I'm saying the problem I've observed within myself and in the masses is that we have a misplacement of attention. We don't know how to observe reality. We are poor observers of reality. And because we're poor observers of reality, what that does is it confines us into this habitual, perpetuated state of thinking. And that thinking limits our panoramic experience of reality. And it confines it to our thought processes, which then is a vicious cycle that then gives us this feeling. So then this perpetuated reinforced feedback loop of thinking and feeling has hardwired itself within the flight or fight response, which then governs our physiological reaction to the world, which is contaminating our present reality through the emotions of the past. So we are coloring our canvas board through our emotional patterns of suffering. And now we experience reality through the medium of past experiences. And that's the limitation that we have in how we perceive reality now. So if you perceive the mountains, you will get the mountains. If you perceive the mountains, the sky and the sun, you'll see the mountains, sky and the sun. If you perceive reality in its whole infinite state, then that's what you'll receive. What the mind conceives, it can achieve, right? What the mind conceives, it can achieve. So as you start to change your perception and see reality differently, you'll start to receive differently. And ultimately, we are just vessels. Before you are you, and that personalization of me, which is just a, algorithm of information that's been stored within the ego computer of, experience, there is this essence within you, and that is universal. It's not subjected to a religion. It's not subjected to your trauma. It's not subjected to anything. Your essence is just the way it is, and it's always been that way, and that's that divine spark that's within all of us. But somewhere along the way, through our nervous system and the information through memory that we've acquired, we've camouflaged that essence to then kind of be suppressed, and and that's given birth to this erratic state of the ego, this chaotic state. And in this chaotic state, we are desperately trying to find fulfillment in a world that is unstable. The world is transient. It's always changing. It's impermanent. And we're trying to define ourselves through this yo-yo of a world that's always changing. So therefore, our moods are changing. Our feelings are changing. Our beliefs are changing. Our thoughts are changing. People are changing. Our bodies are changing. Everything's changing. And we're trying to define ourselves through a transient world that's changing. That's why we're never constant, or we're never content, because everything's changing. But there is a part of you, as Muji would say, that is unchangeable. And that is the awareness. That's where you shift from personhood to presence, where you go from identification to observation. And some people shift throughout the day. Some people are going to practice and control the shift into observation. And some people miss it for a lifetime. They completely miss the shift because they're so identified with the construct. They're so consumed, and it's so seductive, mind you. It's very hypnotic. So by default, they will miss it. But this is what awakening is. Awakening is to shift into a state of observation, so you are more aware. And as you become more aware, your primary reality is awareness, and that secondary reality is perceived through the construct of the ego. And that then becomes a definition that confines you in your perpetuated state of experience, depending on where that shift is. And now, you can feel that shift, because now I'm shifting more into awareness. Before, I was very intense. I tend to be very intense with my energy when it's projected through the construct. But when I start to bring it right back into observation, what's up, Richard? When I start to come back to observation, everything slows down. You see? And this is where you start to listen more. And this is the difference between hearing and listening. 99% of people, they'll hear you, but they won't listen to you. And the difference is, when they hear you, the words are going inside one ear and out the other, and they're just reacting to what you're saying, and they're just giving you some programmed response to validate whatever you're saying. But listening is not listening to your words, but listening to where they're expressing from. For example, Stardust says, deep down your soul, because of true awakening, comes from inside your soul. Now, beyond our words, I read our words like that, but beyond our words is a feeling that she's describing. And that feeling is a connection she has with God, her higher self. Whatever it is, she's found something that is so beautiful, that is so authentic, that she doesn't need any more proof, or she doesn't need any evidence. She's kind of taken solace in that, and she advocates that now because she's found so much kind of serenity in that. So it's evident in her words, the way she expresses this message. Now, some people, they can articulate themselves very well, and some people can't. But someone, let's just say, that comes on here and says, Oscar, you don't know what you're talking about. You think you know it all. You don't know shit. That, to me, I don't look at that. If I hear his words, it'll trigger me, and I'm like, who the fuck are you? Block. That's hearing. I don't hear that. I try not to hear it. I try not to. I can't say I don't do that all the time. I'm a work in progress like everyone else. But when I tune in and I listen to it, I listen to someone that's suffering. I listen to someone that has the currency of fear, that doesn't know how to give love. I listen to someone that doesn't know how to hold space or communicate or debate. I listen to someone that's been hurt. and that's trying to hurt people because they've been hurt. I listen to someone that perceives me as a threat, that's triggering off some sort of trauma within them. Hey, hola, superhuman, how you doing? ¿Cómo estás? That's what I listen to. And when I listen to someone like that, I don't want to validate them, but I want to give them the space to express that, because if someone irritates me, I thank you for that, because that's a catalyst for growth. If you come on here and say you this and you that, and you be racist to me and you call me all these names, if I get triggered, I'm like, wow, okay, well, that shows that I'm very sensitive to these words. I'm very, very sensitive. I'm sensitive because I have an expectation, or I hold myself in a certain way, and that person has gone against that, and that has created me to be defensive, and now I've got to protect that because no one speaks to me like that. How dare you speak to me? Do you know who the fuck I am? No one speaks to me like that. And that level of mental projection of who you think you are is a self-preservation of your ego. And ego isn't a good or bad thing. People think ego is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Ego is just a thing. It can be a great servant, but it can be a destructive master. And it all depends on your level of awareness and how you control your ego. But ego is needed to live in the world. It's needed. Have fun with it. Have fun with your fucking ego. But don't let it define you and keep you compartmentalized in a bunker of suffering. That's keeping you very disconnected from one another. Be aware of your ego, use your ego, but it's not a bad thing. There is no good or bad. Everything is subjective. Our definition of good or bad is, we send someone to a country to kill other people for an agenda that is so biased. He comes back, we'll give him medals, but he's killed innocent people, and we call him a war hero. But then he's got the PTSD. We say that's good, but it's bad, because where's good or bad in that? You know what I mean? It's so subjective. There is no good or bad. The way we look, there's only connection and disconnection. There's consequences of your actions. There's vibration. There's love. There's fear. It's all dualistic. But what is daytime to an owl is nighttime to a human. It's all subjective. Everything is subjective. Everything is subjective to your experience. But it resonates or it dissonates. I'm just giving an extreme example, but there has been countless recordings of people going and killing innocent people, and it's all subjective. It's justified to say if they're innocent or not, and this is not the rabbit hole we're going down. But the point is, it's an agenda that they're kind of being indoctrinated with. What's good or bad, and we can go down there a lot of the times, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I get what you're saying. But everything is subjective. Everything is subjective, but I think that something resonates or it dissonates. Something resonates or dissonates. If it resonates with you, there's connection. If it dissonates with you, there's disconnection. And sometimes we resonate for the right reasons and we have dissonance for the right reasons, but sometimes there's dissonance for the wrong reasons. You're dissonating with someone because of your trauma. 5 minutes of pain and suffering shouldn't dictate 50 years of your life. And this is what trauma does, you see. Trauma is a response in the body, and trauma isn't what Gabor Mate, trauma isn't what happened to you, because what happened is happened. It couldn't happen any other way. Trauma is what's happening inside of you, and trauma can be a wound, very, very sensitive, very emotional, or it can form a calluses, very, very hard and very disconnected. So the trauma response can kind of result in a lot of different psychological conditions that the ego uses as a protective mask or coping mechanism not to deal with what's happening inside of them. Because what's happening inside of them has disrupted the nervous system to the degree now the mind has to look for reasoning to stabilize the nervous system because it doesn't want to be in fear. And sometimes that reasoning is the perception that they acquire in which they perceive reality that helps them stabilize the nervous system. But because the mind's a very intricate thing, there's no right or wrong. Their level of programming can be at default to them, can be detrimental to their well-being. It's a very intricate subject. It's one that's very delicate to a lot of people, but I feel that there is a sort of architecture to it. And when you start to understand the architecture to trauma, you know that it's held in the body. In the mind, obviously, because in memory, but more so the energy is felt in the body, right? It's felt in the body. That's why breath work, what that does is it allows the trauma to move freely through the body. And that's why some people go into this tetany, which is like they can't move their body. They go into, like when they're doing breath work, and they don't actually know what that is. But from my experiences from facilitating classes, it's when the body is shifting energy. It's shifting energy in the body. And that's why a lot of people cry, they yell, stomp their feet when they're doing breath work, because the channels start to open up and it allows the flight or fight response to finish its cycle, right? Because trauma is a flight or fight response that has been stuck in the body and the cycle hasn't been able to finish, right? And it's stuck, and that energy stuck in the body. So then that kind of, activates the flight or fight response. You're dominated through stress hormones, sympathetic nervous system activated, and then the narrative created is equal to the feelings that's generated, because the mind is an instrument. It will just process what you're feeling. If you wake up in the morning and you feel fucking good, you're going to look at yourself and say, hey, I look fucking good. If you wake up in the full morning and you feel insecure, you're like, fuck, you start picking out imperfections in your body. You start wearing different clothing to hide your little belly fat because you're feeling that way. Every feeling is creating this sort of, it's generating this vibration, and then the mind will take this vibration and will take it into this narrative, and that narrative will it'll expose you to what you're feeling, but it will feed the feeling, and it becomes a thinking and feeling loop. And if you do that for long enough, it becomes a mood. And if you stay in a mood for long enough, it becomes a personality trait. So you no longer have to be angry. You just are angry. You're in anger, right? You no longer have to be suffering. You're just depressed. You're sad all the time. You're depressed because you've mentally rehearsed and programmed a vicious cycle that's now been recessed into the gray matters of your brain. It's been so programmed that it's branded you emotionally, and now you're stuck in this vibrational sort of loop, this feedback loop. It's hardwired within your system, and you're struggling to break out of that because it's taken you years to program that. So one conversation in most cases isn't going to be enough, but in some cases it will be, because an epiphany is what I like to call a revelation. When someone has an epiphany, it is more powerful than anything that we know through our educational philosophy, esocentric sort of teachings. An epiphany is so powerful that the electromagnetic energy goes straight into the nucleus and it upregulates new genes. That's what an epiphany is. It's like, boom. That's when spirit or consciousness is so strong that it overrides the other level of energy or programming. To have an epiphany, it's funny how things can change overnight if you're thinking right. Epiphany is a revelation. And this is what a lot of gurus do. They bring up, like Muji, for example, Papaji, Ramana Maharishi, Jiddu Krishnamurti, Shankara, all these OGs of yoga. They'll bring up students or disciples and they'll create a revelation. Having the ability to have a revelation, you unlock you shift something so powerful in you that normally the signals from reality will signal through hormonal or chemical neurotransmitters or neuropeptides. They'll go into the cell receptor on the membrane, and then it will lock, and then that receptor will send a signal to the nucleus, and the nucleus signal will go into the gene, which is part of the chromosome, and it will upregulate a protein. Protein synthesis, transcription, biology 101. Now, what electromagnetic energy does is it goes straight into the nucleus. It doesn't even have to go into the receptor. It bypasses the whole processing of functionality, how you function. It goes straight into the nucleus because you conjure the spirit. I've had enough. That's it. And generally, it's only people that go through near-death experiences or they hit rock bottom that can conjure this level of consciousness. It's not normal or common, not impossible to conjure this level of consciousness unless you enter the quantum field, which Dr. Joe Dispenza calls as gamma waves, or you just really just ignite. And that's how powerful the body is. You know, there's a field called spontaneous combustion. No shit. People have spontaneously combusted, ignited, their whole body's in flame through some sort of inner fucking working. It's very, very rare. But if you Google spontaneous combustion, some people have lit themselves on fire because they walked into a house. There's nothing, everything's fine except for someone sitting there on fire with just the shoes on. Like, you don't believe me? I'll bring it up. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see if I'm right or wrong. Because I could be wrong. Let me see if I'm right or wrong. Harmony, is there a such thing called spontaneous combustion?
Love the chaos. Flash SQL spontaneous combustion could be a few things. Pick your vibe. 1. Video series title ideas. Flash SQL, spontaneous combustion. Query speed so fast it melts the matrix. When queries explode, Flash SQL in the real world. Combustible joins, how bad schema design starts fires.
I don't know what she's saying. But you looked it up. Yeah, there's 3 cases. I seen videos. That's right. So yeah, there is spontaneous combustion. And so that goes to show you, and I'll give you another example how powerful the mind is. Like, you know, for example, I don't think we realize how powerful our fucking minds are. And this is the difference between placebo and nocebo. We know a placebo effect is so powerful that it elicits subconscious mechanisms, you know, through the power of thinking or the power of suggestion or the power of anticipation or belief, that our body starts to elicit this sort of healing mechanism. We know that nocebo is the opposite to that people get sick through negative thinking. But more importantly, for example, if I said to you, here's $1 million, here's $1 million check, right? Here's $1 million check, right? And I'm going to give you this $1 million check, right? But there's only one catch. For that week, I need you to wake up and make as many people smile as possible. I need you to wake up like you are $1 million. Like, you need to feel it. You need to have it. Or even better yet, I'll give you the million. You know you're getting that $1 million. Here's $1 million check, but it needs a week to process. It needs a week to process, right? So you're going to get up in the morning now. You don't have the $1 million. It's not in your bank, but you have a thought, I've got a fucking $1 million. I've won. Like, you actually, like, you wake up. There's no tangible evidence. But imagine how you're going to live for the week. You would live so fucking differently. Let me tell you, if you truly believed that you had, and you will because you've been given it, but for that week, it's not in your bank account. You can't spend it. But here's the catch. You may not get the $1 million. At the end of it, I might be like, joking. But you live like you're $1 million. You made 1,000 people smile. But what you're going to get is the karma from that. And when I say karma, I mean the system of intelligence that you're communicating with. You're projecting a field that is so amplified. That is, good night, Lisa. Oh, are you saying thank you, have a good day? Okay. I thought you were saying good night. So that amplification, the vibrational field is so kind of like amplified, that the information going into the field is now based on this vibration that is so high. So now the system of intelligence, the quantum field, what that does is, may not happen overnight, but if you keep that up like throwing pebbles into a pond, your life is going to change. Not only your life's going to change, imagine the people around you, they're going to be like, who the fuck is this person? Where have you been? And they're going to lift up their consciousness and their energy. Like, this is the secret to life. It's that simple. It's that simple. You know what I mean? Walk like you're a billionaire. You got to walk like you're dancing to a different beat of the drum every single fucking day. And it's got nothing to do with what's in your bank account or what you own. It's got to do with you being a maverick and a conductor of energy, and you know how to amplify your energy in such a way that you are now dancing with the illusion. You're not getting mind fucked anymore. You're dancing with the illusion because you have realized, and this is what an epiphany is. You realize why you're here. Because at the moment, you are identified with a construct that's making you feel inadequate. Because you're never going to have enough. More. But as soon as you peel that veil off and go, mate, I am a fucking beacon of light. I'm a Bushido. I am here to elevate consciousness. I have been given this gift. There I was floating around the cosmos, and I said to myself, mate, I'm going to go into the human experience. I'm going to wake the fuck up, and I'm going to show how electrifying I am to the people around me and bring joy into their lives. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring joy into everyone in my life, because that's what I'm here to do, is to make them experientially rich, because they are in my orbit. They are orbiting around this sun, right? Whatever that is a maverick. Now you've realized what this game is, to become a beacon of light for those who are still suffering. You just got to be amplified, man. I don't care how much money you've lost. I don't care how long you've been abused. Like, fuck all that shit. You're not going to be here 100 years from now. Some of us, maybe 50 years from now. There's going to be a point where you're going to look back at this moment and think, man, if I could go back, I'd do it all again differently. And everyone that has researched people on their last breath, there's always a common sort of knowledge. I wish I loved more. I wish I loved more. I wish I loved